Welcome to the BrainShape Podcast, hosted by Dr. Andrea Wilkinson, a show where we cut through the noise of the ever-growing, ever-changing world of brain health. What works and what doesn't, what's fact and what's fiction. We look at tips, tools, and techniques backed up by real scientific studies to help you keep your brain healthy and hopefully have some fun along the way. Now, here's your host, Dr. Andrea Wilkinson.
You're listening to the BrainShape Podcast, episode number 3. Today we're talking about physical fitness and why it's so important for our overall health. It helps us feel better, gives us more energy, and helps us perform the tasks that we do every day more easily. Evidence also shows that exercise positively impacts our brain health. It's been shown to reduce anxiety and depressive symptoms. It's also been linked to improvements in mental abilities such as memory, thinking speed, and attention. And exercise even helps us sleep better, which is becoming increasingly linked to good brain health. But many older adults are not getting the exercise that they need to elicit these health benefits. It's important that we don't focus too much energy on hitting a preset goal, but we should instead focus our energy on simply getting exercise into our daily routines. Exercise does not necessarily mean that you have to go to the gym. It just means be active. The goal should be to be active every day. This point is echoed by today's guest, Laurie Brager. She is a personal trainer for women who are 50 and over at L Physio, a female-focused physiotherapy clinic in Oakville, Ontario. Laurie is a 60-year-old woman who is passionate about helping and inspiring other women to take charge of their own health and fitness. For the male listeners out there, don't worry. Laurie shares lots of relevant tips that everyone, regardless of gender, should be incorporating into their everyday lives. Here we go. Here's Laurie Brager. Hi, Laurie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm super excited to talk to you about fitness and wellness for older adults. And I just wanted to start with a general question. If you could tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your history, and how is it that you became involved in the whole fitness world?
Sure, Andrea, I'd be happy to. I would say probably about 14 or 15 years ago, so getting close to 50. My younger daughter actually convinced me to go with her to the gym. And so I just thought, you know what, I should do something because the treadmill in our house had clothes hanging on it for too long. So I better do something really that's going to help me out. So I went to the gym with her and I watched, started watching some of the young trainers and spoke to some women in my age. And really, it was like the trainers are really good and doing good things, but we were sort of the feedback I was getting is, you know what, they don't really understand our bodies. We're different. We need different kind of exercise. And it sort of struck me, and it wasn't always a conversation, but at that time I sort of thought, when I have an opportunity and I can leave work, I think I'm going to get into something with health and fitness. It just sort of was like, came over me one day. And when I was about 55, I had the opportunity to leave my full-time work, and I took a nutrition and wellness course first. And then from there, decided to take the personal training course. And then I thought, okay, I really want to focus on older adults. So I took an older adult fitness course. And I'm big on learning. And I was in this whole new area for me because my background was in marketing and business. So really wasn't that familiar. And then I actually took a bone fit course with Osteoporosis Canada. And I then just started to, after taking all these courses and talked to a couple women friends and ended up going to their houses and started the training. But I really felt, I just can relate to their age and stage. We're sort of the sandwich generation with, we have our children, we have grandchildren, we have parents. And it was just really, I have a passion to really work with women in my age and stage. And we really it seems to work really well, and really got excited about it.
And so you decided to sort of focus on women specifically over the age of 50 because that was a need that you had, that you weren't sort of getting fulfilled in the appropriate way. Is that correct?
You know what? Exactly. And I really would say that absolutely I felt that I really wanted to work with women. I just really didn't feel that I really wanted to work with men. And I knew there was a need for women, especially women and my age and stage, really hadn't done anything really with weights and really didn't know much about working out. And I just felt, and talking to some of the women and some of my friends, really saw the need in the market and the niche, and thought it was a growing demographic for sure. So just really pursued it. And that's sort of the beginning. And that was about 7 years ago.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the listeners will know the general information about why being active and fit and healthy is important for everyone. But I think it would be really important for you to give us an overview on some of the key factors as to why having a healthy and fit lifestyle is so critical, especially for the women that you work with who are over the age of 50.
Sure, absolutely. I think that, thinking about this, I really wanted to talk about, the general words that I hear are definitely from my clients are definitely more energy. I definitely feel stronger. And those are really important. And we always know, and we always see the research, that the research never says don't exercise, but what's really important certainly is the right exercise. And really, in particular with our age group, as we begin to lose muscle, and by about age 40, you start to lose your muscle, and by probably age 70, you've lost half your muscle. And why I really wanted to, the benefits of doing strength training and cardio is you want to regain some of that muscle back, and also that muscle tone. So the women in our age, in this 50 plus age group, are losing a lot of muscle. And of course, what happens then is the fat, and they've gained weight, and they look a lot bigger, and they have a lot less energy. As their metabolism slows down, then they're gaining weight. So many women will come and say, I've been doing the same thing for the last 20 years. I don't understand why I've gained 20 pounds. And that's exactly the problem, because you have to, as your metabolism slows down, you've got to increase your exercise. And of course, the diet or eating properly is a whole other part of it as well. So really, the energy, the feeling stronger. The other thing I would talk about that really has come up in reading about, I don't have any particular clients that are in this situation, but there's lots of research talking about reducing the risk of dementia. Some research is saying that women who exercise into their 50s are 5 times less likely to develop dementia. So that's huge for a lot of people. One other really important point is bone loss, something that really isn't spoken about. I think we think that women or men, it's an older person's disease. But really, it's called actually the silent thief. And probably a lot of listeners don't know that you begin in your mid-30s to lose about 1% of your bone. And at menopause, with losing estrogen, you'll begin to lose about 2 to 3%. So a huge increase in bone loss. And this is really important because, your bones, you don't want them to be breaking, and osteoporosis, and certainly you don't want to be falling. So we really work on a lot of strength training here. So that's certainly a huge benefit of exercise and living the healthy lifestyle. And we all want to play with our grandchildren on the floor and get off the floor and get back up, because that's something that a lot of people get stuck doing.
I think there is sort of a misconception when you think about physical exercise. People often just associate that with muscle strength, but you're mentioning that it actually has an impact on bone strength as well.
Well, bones and muscles, and when you're doing strength training, there's a certain way to do it to really increase not just the muscle, but bone strength as well. So really, really important. And I think that I try to combine a lot of exercise together to help maintain mobility and flexibility and strength. And stamina as well, because they all can be combined. And, one other thing, the mental benefits of exercise, it's all connected, but just to separate it out, as women go through menopause in particular, lots of science, but even talking to my clients and hearing them talk about some have a lot of anxiety and stress through menopause, and even mood changes, self-confidence changes, not just because of the mental, going through this whole life change, but just their bodies are changing. And abdominal fat is so common. it's real. And everyone says, don't like this, I need to do something about it. But that's a lot of hormone changes. And so exercising certainly is one area, something we can do to help. I can't say we're going to get rid of all your abdominal fat, but we can certainly help you tone. and feel better and feel good about yourself, and hopefully, enhance your self-esteem because you just feel better and you start looking better, and it's just all tied in together.
Absolutely. And there is research out there that shows that there are the mental benefits associated with physical exercise, which includes increased mood, decreased anxiety, decreased depression, improvements in quality of sleep. And there's also the evidence that shows it impacts our mental abilities. So you see improvements in attention and memory, as well as faster thinking speed. And so there's this whole gamut and wide variety of benefits of physical exercise that extends beyond our physical bodies up into our minds as well.
Oh, you're so right, Andrea. One that I know that our listeners will be thinking about is sleep. And, the loss of sleep through menopause, I know that's something that I've really suffered with more than any of the other impacts of menopause, is just your sleep habits change and you wake up a lot, and definitely notice when I'm exercising more or exercise, I don't want to say more, but proper exercise and eating better, my sleep is better too. And there certainly is. And that, when you get the right amount of sleep, then your mood can be better, you feel better. So everything is tied together.
Absolutely. So I was wondering about your thoughts on the optimal amount of time people should be exercising on a weekly basis. I'm wondering if you could speak to the listeners who maybe fit your target market and are over the age of 50. Is there a recommendation on how frequently people should be exercising and the types of exercises they should be doing?
Sure. I know the Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines talk about, accumulating at least 150 minutes of physical activity per week, and that's some cardio, mostly they're talking about, and then as well strength training a couple times a week. But what I like to say to people, let's start with something. So if you haven't been doing anything, what's realistic? What's going to fit into your life? I think that's really important because people get overwhelmed. Let's build from there. And I often will incorporate, so let's talk about what you do at home. And I'll ask the question, do you brush your, because I have often, I'm looking after my parents, I have grandchildren, I still have kids, I'm working part-time. So it's a very busy age and stage often. So I'll say, do you brush your teeth? Yes. Could you squat and brush your teeth twice a day? Oh, I guess I never thought of that. Why don't you try it? Just try it out. And I'm not saying that's the only way, but I think if you can think of ways to incorporate some exercise in your lifestyle, it will be a help. But if you're if you're doing a 20-minute walk once a week, could you do that 3 times a week? Is that realistic? When is the best time of day to do it? Could you put it on your phone as a reminder? How can we help you to get this it has to be a habit, but I don't think the habit has to right away go to 150 minutes or 200 minutes. Let's build. Let's incorporate. Let's do it so you can maintain it and achieve it. And not, because the stopping is hard because then you have to start again. What I'd like to say to someone, 2 most important things. Let's start exercising. Let's continue exercising. But everyone is different. Everyone's life is different. How can we incorporate this into your life? So I'm really passionate about that because I think some people really try to do okay, this is it. It's New Year's, it's January. I'm going to really do this. And then they, set themselves up almost to fail.
Absolutely. Because people are starting with a goal that's already too high. So they're like, okay, I got to start. I got to get to 150 minutes this week. And if they don't make it to 150, they only make it to 60 minutes in the week. Then they're like, oh, I failed. You know what? I should just forget about this.
And exactly right. Exactly the same thing that happens with diet. We might start on some diet that, oh, this is exciting, let's go. And you go so hard and then, you're not eating properly, you're not eating some of the foods you like, and then you just give up and you gain it back. So it's the same thing with exercise. Let's make it sustainable. Let's build it into your life. So I think that's really important. And then, as far as what's important in a fitness routine, what are the core elements? What are the benefits? So one of the first things I like, yes, there's cardio, strength, flexibility, and balance, and I can briefly touch on each of those. But I think something that's really what's forgotten is breathing. You have to learn proper breathing, and diaphragmatic breathing is really an important thing to learn. And, if you can't, that's just a basic, and I won't go into how you do it, but if you're pursuing fitness, please find out about breathing and incorporate that into every exercise you do. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth using your diaphragm. So I'll just leave it at that. The second thing is posture. Posture is so important. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but maybe through childbirth and as time goes on, there's different things. And I know a lot of our generation, shoulders back, chest out, tuck your bum, all the wrong things. So you want to untuck your bum. You don't want to have your chest. You don't want to have your back. You want to be straight. But again, I'm not going to go through exactly how to measure, but find out from a trainer all about posture. And then alignment. I mean, they are related, but you have to be exercising in the right alignment with the right posture, using the right breathing. And all through that is incorporating and building a strong core. So your core, people think, I got to do a lot of sit-ups. First of all, I don't like to do sit-ups because really not good for your spine and that flexion movement. There's a lot of great things to do. Planks may not be your favorite, but a fantastic exercise for building strength. But you have to build from the inside out. And a core is everything except your appendages. So everything except your arms and legs. And that was sort of my passion about, not just flying to cardio and strength, and balance training. But I think that a great thing to do, and what I do in my training, is functional exercise. So functional meaning that whatever exercise we do, you can carry over to everyday life. So I mentioned squats before. You want to be able to always get up and down from the toilet without asking for help. And, may laugh, but I've heard recently a story about the fire 911 having to come to get a senior off the toilet. Really, really important to build strength. So but it has to be done properly. And really with exercise, and especially as we get a little older, and, we have arthritis and there's osteoporosis, and, we have hip problem, back problem, lots of things. And these are from habits from many years that maybe we weren't doing things right. It's important to make sure, go slow, make sure your position is right, your form is right, do less, but do better. And the functional exercise, as I said, so squatting, getting up and down from the floor, lunges, but doesn't have to be a dozen of each one first. Start slow, do it properly. And upper body, we're weaker upper body than we're built to begin with. Upper body's not as strong as men, but we just didn't do like a push-up. That's a man's thing. And I'm just not everyone's saying that, but it's sort of where we've come from. But again, it doesn't have to be a full push-up. Let's do one on our knees or do it against the wall or do it on a ledge, and let's make sure we do it properly. But we do want upper body strength. We want to be able to hold our grandchildren. We want to be able to go grocery shopping. And so I often will incorporate so we can it doesn't have to be an hour or I don't have people walking fast on the treadmill for half an hour, but I incorporate little intervals. And so to get the heart rate, do a little bit together and then slow down and do it again. And that's a great way. It's called interval training, but you don't have to think of the CrossFit, the high intensity CrossFit, but we do it in little pieces. So it might be 2 minutes of walking up and down a stepper. And then it might be 2 minutes of just walking and then back on the stepper. And it depends, of course, on the person and what their level is. But there's always modifications. Whenever I have a group, it's never just everyone has to do this certain exercise. We have to look about where your level is and how we're going to proceed. But even balance is so important. All the women says, my balance isn't good. I need to work on balance. Yes, we all need to work on balance. And yes, as you get older, your balance won't be as good as it was. But it's all connected. So your balance isn't as good because your core isn't as strong and your glutes aren't as strong, and et cetera. So we have to build your strength to have your balance. So I often will do exercises that incorporate strength and balance together. So you're not just standing on one foot, but maybe we're doing a back lunge with your leg up as you proceed and to work on balance. But I always try to incorporate a piece of balance in there all the time.
I feel like balance is really underrated, actually.
I think so.
Yeah. People don't often think of it as being part of physical fitness if you just think of balancing. But then if you actually project out into the future and the importance of being able to balance in your everyday life, it's a core feature of being able to perform your activities of daily living.
100%. And if we really falls are the concern for so many. And, as older people fall, and it depends, and I don't like to categorize what age, because there could be a really fit, 80-year-old and not a fit 6-year-old. But, as you get older, balance balance will become even more relevant as you realize you don't have it and you don't want to fall. And there's so many people, hips breaking and knees, all sorts of issues in the hospitals. And then unfortunately, you won't be that healthy, fit, active adult after that, or it's certainly going to take you a long way to go forward. So we really want to always focus on that. And I don't think it's an old person's thing to do. I think we all need to be working on it. And I definitely like to be incorporating that into the program that, I work with.
Also, I was thinking that there's sort of this preconceived belief about using weights and how it creates sort of bulky muscles or a bulky physique. And I know some people will say, I don't want to be really bulky, so I don't want to use weights. And I know that this assumption is being challenged now, which I really appreciate, but I really hope that older women are also getting this message, because I worry, when I talk to my mom, who's 75, when I talk to her about using weights, she's always like, oh, I could never. But it's almost like she's one of the key people that should be lifting weights, and not heavy weights, but maybe like a 2-pound weight.
You know what? That it's so true, and that is a whole other myth about the bulking. And at our age and stage, I haven't met anyone, including myself, who does a lot of weightlifting. I would love to see better my biceps, and I can only show my grandchildren when I do a really good fist and show them. But unfortunately, as we get older, the muscle gets hidden even though it's there. So, because things change. So I would not worry about that at all. And the other thing I've heard someone say, I was asked by a client, am I going to gain weight if I gain muscle? And I said, you will not gain weight. And I promise you, because you're first of all, you're going to look a lot more toned. Your clothes are going to fit differently. And if you incorporate, eating properly, and we can talk about that a little after, with it, you're going to be losing weight. And the most important thing is you gain more muscle and lose fat. That's a healthier person.
Right. Absolutely. And just before we move on to the next question, I'm just wondering if there's sort of a ratio about how much time everyone should be devoting to cardio versus strength training versus flexibility and balance. Is there some sort of guideline?
You know what? I think that's it depends. So I would say, look at your life, see what makes sense. So if you're a gym person and you want to, or you can exercise at home and you know what to do. So let's if going for a walk works in your life 3 times a week, like at a good clip, that's fantastic. So let's say a minimum of, and I hate to put the minimums in, but even 2 times, 3 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes. But if that isn't realistic, so it's the winter time, you don't have somewhere to walk outside. So in your home, if you could, you have to do a little bit more creative, and you might have a few stairs to walk up and down if that's possible. And then I would encourage you to do that. But the strength training, I guess, so I don't know if I've answered the cardio. I don't have a minimum. Sure, 150 minutes a week is really, that's wonderful if achievable. But think about if you're doing strength training. So if you would be doing this, it's strength but cardio combined. So if you're doing a walking lunge, which I have a lot of women that are doing, you're going to be working cardio as well. And that's, incorporated together. But a strength training component along with, muscles and bones. So muscle and bones are sort of connected because weightlifting is working on pulling the bones, which is strengthening them. If you can do twice a week minimum, that's ideal. And then the flexibility, stretching, which we haven't spoken about, so important. Being able to, continue to be flexible and, increase your range of motion because we get stiff, and overall mobility to ensure independence as you age, reducing the risk of injury. If you can do it, I do stretching every day, and it's a couple times a day because it feels good. So if you get into a routine and you get up in the morning, and I hear this a lot, I get out of bed and I'm really stiff, and people are stiff in the morning. So there's a couple, back stretches you could do. So get into the routine of every day doing those 2 or 3 stretches that are really going to help you and make you feel better. And then at the end of the day, I'll often do them too. But at the end of the day, don't think about, where should I do this? So get into routine. So at night, near my chair, when I finally settle down, before I sit down, I do my stretches. So again, I'm going back to that habit. It has to be part of your life that works for you, and make it a habit, just like eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It has to be a habit, and it also has to be a priority.
Yep, absolutely. And I like the idea of linking the habit to something that you already do.
Right.
So you decompress in this chair. Maybe you're reading a book, but it's like before I sit in the chair that I always sit in, I do my stretches. So you're linking the new habit that you want to form to an existing habit.
100%.
And that's where the success is.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's worked best, certainly from the woman I've worked with, and I know for myself, it's just something that I do. And, going back to that priority, if your health is important, ladies out there, make it a priority. So yes, we got to get our hairs done, and we got to get our nails done, and we have to help this one. But, the women that are most successful that I work with are those that show up, and it doesn't have to be at a gym or working with me, but whatever exercise you do, it's in your calendar. It's something you do. I mean, yes, there's times when you can't, but it has to be something that you've prioritized, and everything else builds around it. And actually, one of the comments one of the women said recently, I said, how does this help your life? She says, you know what, it really organizes me, and that makes me feel better.
Absolutely.
So it's very useful.
I find personally that physical exercise gives me mental clarity.
Yeah.
So when I get my exercise in the morning before I start my workday, I'm actually so much more focused on my work because I have such clarity in my brain. It just seems like my brain's on task and ready to go. I love having a morning workout. It actually helps me work better.
I would say generally that 90% of the women I work with, mornings are best. And for me as well, I used to do evenings when I worked full time and I didn't have the opportunity, but absolutely mornings. And one thing I wanted to go back to, Andrew, when we talked about weights, 2 pounds, 4 pounds, don't even have to think about that. You can use your body weight to do exercises too. So there's many things you can do. And the other thing that I have, and I love being able to do this, is women say, okay, I'm going on vacation, so I'll miss a couple weeks. I said, well, first of all, is there a nice beach? Yeah, well, I'd love to. Well, I'm sure you'd love to walk along the beach. But the other thing, I said, could you pack a resistance band in your bag? I guess I could. And I have an actual exercise program just using a band. And it works every part of your body. I mean, it's fantastic. And I use it not just for going away. I use bands a lot because you can have a lot of resistance with bands. It doesn't have to be actually weights. So something to think about and something that easily travels with you.
Yeah. And I often think about my mom because, as I mentioned, she's 75 and she's never been someone that exercises in the traditional sense. She's always been a walker. So she'll park her car really far away from the mall entrance, and then she'll walk to the mall and she'll walk around the mall. And so walking has really been her go-to exercise, which is great. There is loads of evidence that shows the benefits of walking on our brains. But then as she gets older, even carrying some of the lighter grocery bags, she'll say that it's too heavy and that maybe she hurt her back a little bit. And I worry because she's never done the muscle strength training. And so it's likely that her muscles are relatively weak because all she does is walk.
100%. Yeah, they do atrophy. They do atrophy. She could take a couple soup cans out and just do some bicep curls, like just little. And those are the kinds of things that you don't have to feel, it has to be a weight. Or when she's walking, if you buy her or buy anyone out there, your mother's just, a 3 or 4 pound weight as they're walking, let them do bicep curls. I mean, incorporate it so they don't feel they have to do it separate. I mean, it's not just bicep, but that's a start, right? And getting that arm strength. But really, it's really when I see people that, whether it's getting hard to get up from a chair or can't pick, your grandchildren up, or groceries or anything in the house. You don't want to be in that. You want to live a long, healthy, active life. And so doing that strength training, because your muscles are going if you don't do anything more. I mean, the walking is fantastic. I'll never say that what you're doing is not good. It's always good. But what else can we do to make it even better?
Yeah, exactly. So in addition to exercise, what are some of the other factors that you think are really important for keeping our bodies as healthy as possible?
Well, I think that, I think that the food component is certainly an area that we have to talk about. I mean, certainly for a woman asking me as far as coming in, okay, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to lose a lot of weight, right? I says, well, you will definitely tone. Yes, I'm hopeful you can lose weight, but there's sort of this 80-20 thing about eating well is really 80% is weight loss, and 20% is really the part in terms of exercise. But that also goes back to eating well. I would say 80% of the time and 20%, enjoy I don't want to say, everything in moderation. I'm a big moderation person, and I'm not a diet person. I'm finding a lifestyle that promotes healthy eating with the right kinds of foods that's going to make you feel good, and with the right portion size, hopefully in the exercise, you'll begin to lose some weight. And that's certainly been my success in many of the women I'm working with. But I would talk about a couple of things in relation to eating that I find that women, the areas that they really need more help with, that they don't eat enough protein. And really a vital part for your muscles and your bones, because I think we're into this, we'll have salads for lunch if you're eating, think you're eating well, but forget to add that protein. And I know that, Dietitians of Canada just came out with, definitely eat more plant proteins. And I would say certainly that's great. But if you like eggs or whatever it is, and if you're exercising, and I'm going to throw out a number of, 75 to 90 grams of protein a day, and you'll need to look that up to see that translate. But you'll be surprised how much you actually need. And actually for brain health as well, I've learned that eating more protein is important. So I've really got more women. I would say this is an area in particular that's important. Needing more calcium. I mean, certainly as, bones, our bone health, we need to be able to, we're depleting our calcium with the estrogen loss. Again, I'm not saying it has to be milk, because I know a lot of people don't drink milk. But we need also, I'm going to throw out a couple supplements. And of course, you need to check with your doctor to see if it's right. But vitamin D and K actually to help absorb calcium. So, and numbers that are given out by Osteoporosis Canada are good to follow, or checking with your doctor are certainly vital. And drink more water. Everyone should drink more water.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just bought a liter jug so I can track how much water I'm drinking every day, because I wasn't convinced that I was drinking enough.
And I think, again, it's like sort of you start with a little bit, and then, believe it or not, I'll almost use the word crave, because I used to have younger days, bladder infections all the time, and I wasn't drinking water. It was coffee in the morning, and I still drink coffee. I have a couple of cups of coffee in the morning for sure, and that's it. But then I switched to basically water the rest of the day, and now I crave the water, and I haven't had a bladder infection since. So that was really, wow, that was worthwhile for me. And plus all the other things, my skin, certainly, the hydration, just in terms of, well, when you exercise, you need it for, replenishing, but it's a great habit to get into.
Absolutely. So the physical fitness, nutrition, getting as much water as your body needs, and also the sleep component, which I know that you touched on a little bit earlier, is really important.
Yeah. Well, and the sleep, I'm still not a great sleeper, and I do worry about that, because I know that it's really important for you. But I just listened to a researcher the other day that really said, as you get older, you need less than when you were younger. But if you wake up and you feel revived, or you feel like, rested, then you're probably getting enough sleep. So that's something to keep in mind if you're struggling with sleep. But definitely do what you can if you're not rested. What you can to get more sleep, and talking to whether it's doctor or naturopath, whatever is good for you.
And you'll often find, as you mentioned, that if you're exercising, so if you boost up the exercise component, you'll often see a positive impact on your sleeping patterns.
Yeah, I would say so. I certainly, the women that I've worked with say they are sleeping better, they feel better, they're just, their whole bodies are better. And then if you're getting into absolutely the good eating, and I would say stop eating at a certain, the earlier the better for a good night's sleep. Certainly that's the experience that I've noticed from the women I've worked with and myself. So the later, the later you eat at night, probably the more challenging your sleep will be, and less. And I have to say, and as we're all fighting, abdominal fat, as we've talked about, we call it the muffin top, or unfortunately the name that's been given, and that sugar is really, and it's out there today, is definitely more of an enemy than a help. And yes, do I have sugar? Sure, I have the occasional cookies or cake or things that I like, but I've got that in the 20% of what I eat. And but I know if I eat that in the evening and too much, my sleep is definitely more interrupted. So something to keep in mind.
Well, this was so wonderful, Laurie. This was so informative and incredibly helpful. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. So I just wanted to ask you, if the listeners wanted to get in contact with you, where's the best place that they could find you?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, I work in a physio clinic called Physio, ELLEPHYSIO in Oakville. And there's a wonderful team there that I work with, and I'm so fortunate to gain their expertise and learn so much myself there. And so to reach me, though, the best thing is you could send me an email at Laurie, LAURIE, at 50 plusfitnessforwoman.ca. Again, Laurie at 50 plusfitnessforwoman.ca. Or I have Facebook, so 50 Plus Fitness for Women, and I have my website is 50 plusfitnessforwoman.ca. So I'd be thrilled to talk to anyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was very, very insightful.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me, Andrea.
Have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
To learn more about Laurie Brager, you can visit her website at 50plusfitnessforwomen.ca. Email her at Laurie at 50plusfitnessforwomen.ca or like her Facebook page at 50 Plus Fitness for Women. All of this information can be found back on our website at brainshape.ca/episode 3. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this episode taught you about all of the amazing benefits of physical exercise and inspired you to incorporate healthier habits into your everyday life. Staying physically active is critical to help ensure that you're able to live an independent and healthy life for as long as possible. So I really hope that this episode inspired you to make your physical fitness a priority. And remember, physical fitness doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to the gym. It just means be active. So focus your energy on moving your body every day in a way that's meaningful and appropriate for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. And since we're a weekly show, I'll see you back here next week, where we'll be talking about brain-healthy foods and how what we eat affects not only our bodies, but our minds too. If you're on social media, you can follow me at BrainShapeTO and let me know if you have any questions that you want me to answer on the podcast. Until next time, keep your brain in shape. And as always, I've had such a wonderful time hanging out with you.